Bumpy start to the weekend. Teams calling their shots, and a former F1 world champion makes a big, bold prediction for the end of the season. This is Into the Chicane, a Formula One podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Channing Apodaca. That is Brandon Wood. This is the Canadian Grand Prix preview edition. Rocky start already. We just wrapped up within, the last hour or so, I'd say?
Yeah, free practice one.
Yeah, FP1, and it never really got going.
No. I think not everyone, maybe 2/3 of the grid did about one lap.
Yeah, but it wasn't like maybe two of them got hot laps in, maybe.
Barely.
But they were, just the formative warm-up laps, and then Pierre on his outlap just shut down.
Yeah, it was like an electrical issue with the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So something kind of made minor, but he was stuck on the track for a little bit, causing a red flag. And then while they're under red flag, they lost CCTV around the track.
Yeah, did you see what caused that?
No.
It had nothing to do with Pierre Gasly, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, because I had kind of tuned out a little bit. I wasn't paying that much attention because they were stopped for so long after Pierre got stopped. And I heard them start talking about the CCTV issue, and I don't know why, but my first mental association was the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Channel.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? The CBC went down? What the hell does that have to do with the Grand Prix?
Yeah. No, maybe Lawrence Stroll did a little sabotage because they're getting a little too close to those new Aston Martin upgrades.
Oh, shit. What do you mean? Who was getting too close?
Cameras.
Oh, got you. Yeah, maybe. A little bit of finaglery from the Strolls. Speaking of which, so we have the Aston Martin upgrades that they've brought. What do you know about this?
I know we got some pictures. We got some new little cuts in the side pods there. A little bit of floor work. So exciting stuff.
Is it all aero design? Or are they bringing any suspension?
All aero. Let me see. He posted
any floorboard?
the official. Let me see.
Obviously, they're not going to show us that.
Williams also had some changes here. Let's see.
Williams brought some upgrades, or at least maybe an exhaust change or something.
Romeo. So Aston Martin's floor body.
Oh yeah.
And then cooling louvers, and then engine cover.
So they're going all in for Lance's home race.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, that's the time to do it. Show out where you go out,
Yeah, well, this is something that's been anticipated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For at least the past month, all we've been hearing about is these
The big
upgrades
Aston
we're
Martin
bringing
package,
in
yeah.
Canada are going to be huge. So leaps and bounds, enough to crush competition. So
That's what they're calling it?
Alonso has stated with
That's
these new
some
upgrades,
Alonso
they will
shit right
crush the competition.
Okay.
So let's go.
I-
battle for...
Dude, I'm so here for it. I'm actually I like a lot of the speculation and a lot of the talk that's been going into this weekend. Before we get into any more of that, we'll come back to, the Aston Martin upgrades and everything that's been said about them. A little bit of news with Lewis Hamilton signs a 1+1 with Mercedes, meaning you were talking about it earlier, you and I off camera. He gets a 1-year deal and then the option of signing a 2nd-year deal after that, right?
Yeah.
And no clue when the option is going to kick in or kick off. They'll probably give it to him as long as he wants it. It's Lewis Hamilton. That's awesome. The longer Lewis stays, I think the more exciting things are. The better the competition is going to be on track. And it also keeps, everybody's favorite driver, George, at bay a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had the greatest past couple seasons, but that doesn't mean that he still doesn't have that dog in him.
No, he's still Lewis Hamilton. I think he's still at least the 2nd best driver on the grid. Probably, if not tied for maybe 2nd or 3rd. The only factor there is that Max is, 10 plus years younger than him, but of the same skill set. But he's still Lewis Hamilton. He's still got it. He spent these last few years as a sort of transitional development phase for the team.
Sure.
So that's all that is. So hopefully these next few years that he's signed on for, they can dial in that car, and they're already starting to do so. Plus, he'll be under the tutelage of Toto Wolff for another few years as he signs till 2026 as well.
Yeah.
And then what was this about Lewis Hamilton getting confronted by protesters?
So Lewis and Toto were doing a me turn the sound up.
I love you and respect you, and I know that your companionship with
PETA?
your dogs demonstrates the love you have for animals. I beg you, please. We're begging you to please. I know that you don't want dogs to suffer, right? You don't want dogs to suffer. You don't want to hear from the Iditarod race does that.
This guy in the background.
Yeah, we don't want to hear from you.
Has a long-standing history, long and tragic history. Please, I beg you, please. I beg you to please cut your ties.
Thank God Toto's speaking up.
Use your influence to please.
Lewis was listening to them though. He was like,
He's Lewis. Of course he's gonna listen. He's a humanitarian. He's a fucking vegan. Don't touch me.
We know you're an ally, so please ask Formula One to stop the Iditarod. Dogs are dying.
These are just so annoying, dude. It has nothing to do with Lewis. It has nothing to do with Toto. It's F1's association with the Iditarod because it's also a race. That's all it is. Go to the Iditarod and complain about it. They're F1's association with it. I don't know it, but it has to be loosely based in the fact that they're both some sort of a race. I don't know what
the association
I've never
is
seen
with
F1 do
FIA
any sort of promotion
of Iditarod.
or anything with the Iditarod. Also, I don't know how bad it is. I don't want to see dogs suffer either. Those dogs are also kind of made for that. That's like what those dogs live to do.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not going to say too much about it. I like dogs. I don't want to see dogs get hurt. The Iditarod is also kind of cool.
Yeah.
Snow Dogs, Cuba Gooding Jr., that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it to make have an opinion, but at the same time, it's kind of.
Some of these protests are just going out of hand.
At least they weren't getting on the track for this
Yeah.
one, so.
Did you see some of the other ones of the people, the PETA people? I forget where they were protesting, but they had glued themselves to the ground. And then everybody was like, you know what glue's made out of, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see what else.
Cool stuff, bro.
Lots of cool stuff from protesters. As always, protesters are cool.
So
They always make everything better.
over the break, there's this quote that started bouncing around from George Rushell.
Rushell or Russell?
George Russell.
I don't know who George Rushell is.
George Rushell. He was rushing to make this statement. He said maybe 3 drivers on the grid who wouldn't feel comfortable going against. There's a trust between most of the drivers. I don't think those 3 unnamed drivers have the spatial awareness of others.
Wait, who said that there were... So this is an answer to a question. There are maybe... The question is maybe 3 drivers on the grid you wouldn't feel comfortable going against. Is that a question or a statement being...
That's him. That's him
He's saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's saying that there are 3... I mean, I would say it's Max... Spatial awareness, Valtteri, just because of the history there. But this is hilarious to me because if there's one that I wouldn't trust, it's him.
Exactly. That's why it's really funny.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Who could he be talking about? Who has he come into contact with recently? Carlos?
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody who gets in trouble more than him, especially with Nick Latifi being gone. Yuki?
Maybe. I don't know. It's just really weird.
Who's touched lately? Lando and Lewis touched. That was a pretty dumb one from Lando, but that's his best friend.
I mean, a running joke this season for us has been
George making contact.
Every race, yeah. So it is very funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, if it's in the pot, calling the kettle a fucking prick.
Hey, that's what George does best, though.
Exactly. That's funny. I'm curious who he's talking about there, but I couldn't even begin to narrow it down who he's thinking of. I don't know. It's probably going to be some like weird combination. Maybe it's Lance. They kind of are locked up a lot. They're in the same starting positions pretty often.
Lance will throw his elbows out a lot. So
I could see that. That's funny, though. Interesting. So getting back to the Aston Martin upgrades, do we think that they're going to be able to get past Mercedes again? Do we think it's enough to throw them back into the top echelon? Not that they're not, I guess they're still there, but they did fall back. Is it going to be enough to get Lance over the hump, I think is the big question.
I think upgrades are going to help, but I think the biggest determining factor is going to be Lance.
Yeah.
Right? Lance really has to deliver and be consistent because, they've had the faster car for majority of the season. You can maybe argue last weekend, Mercedes with their new upgrades and with how they had the setup going, they actually ended up having the faster car.
Yeah, then there's the question of, is Mercedes' new upgrade package and them dialing it in over 2 races? They had Spain to do it, which was a little there was rain in Spain.
Technically,
right?
they unveiled it in Monaco, right? So
they unveiled it, but that we already we talked about that. That was a wash.
Yeah,
no pun intended. A little bit of rain in Spain. Don't mean to rhyme stupid there. We also might get rain this weekend. There's an 80% chance today, as of the closing of FP1, coming up on FP2 in the next hour or so. But now that they'll be able to fully unveil the package, really get as much life out of it as they could, or so they thought. They didn't get any on-track time in FP1. Are they finally going to be able to dial this in? Who knows? Every chance that they've had to fully debut this car has been cut short. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Lawrence Stroll is saying that Lance is now finally fully healed, and that we saw it, what he's been capable of all season, coming to fruition in Spain. He finally beat his teammate, even though he had a complete shutout against Lance. Alonso had a shutout leading into the race, 3 practices and a quali. Daddy is calling his shot right there and saying that Lance is going to have the best race of his season. You think he's going to get a little bit of hometown glory?
I hope so. This is a good spot for him to do it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, as the car gets stronger, right? This first weekend with the upgrades, they may not have everything figured out fully, right?
Right.
And this first practice session getting basically canceled doesn't help them. It's just less time that they have to sort things out. All that being said, like, as the car gets better and better, and Alonso is getting better and better finishes, Stroll has to kind of keep up with him, or else that just makes it harder and harder to justify keeping him in that seat.
Lance needs to beat one of, if not both, Mercedes. Like, that's has to happen. If not, they're going to fall back to third. There's nothing. Alonso's not going to be able to consistently he's not going to be able to consistently be battling with Checo to score those extra points to make up for where Lance is losing out to both Mercedes.
Exactly.
So it's dire if they want to finish P2 in this championship that Lance step his shit up and then keep it there. Lawrence Stroll said to the team that he wants to see a double podium, and Alonso backed him up, saying that that's the goal for the season, or for the weekend. This is all part of like a bunch of drivers calling their shots, teams calling their shots. But Lawrence Stroll said he wants to see a double podium for the not so much hometown Grand Prix for them, but for his hometown Grand Prix. And then Alonso said that he's going to do everything that he can to make it happen, basically. But they're calling double podium for Aston Martin.
That would be beautiful.
That'd be nice.
It's a nice bounce back from Spain.
It's basically going to take a DNF from one of the Red Bulls.
Not necessarily DNF. Like, Alonso could beat Checo straight up.
He could beat Checo straight up. He's not going to beat Max, but for both Aston Martins to get on the podium, that's a stretch. I think it would take one of them DNFing, and man, you'd almost hope that it'd be Max just to even the playing field a little bit.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, Checo also said that he's targeting a restart. That was another one of the drivers calling his shot. He says, this is my race. I mean, this isn't a direct quote, but he's saying that this is the race where I restart my season, get his bearings back underneath him.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because basically from here on out, like, if he wants to be...
He's got to be borderline perfect.
Yeah, he can't really afford to make any more mistakes.
Yeah.
So he really has to just, like, focus and just be consistently up there fighting for the podium, and he can do it, you know.
It can happen. It's going to be a long shot. It's, I think we said it last week, but he's going to need a little bit of Nico Rosberg luck in order to get that shit done. But hey, that's the way seasons go. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be, if it wasn't for things going right or wrong in any direction, we wouldn't be arguing, this asterisk next to Max Verstappen's 2021 World Championship. Had things gone differently in Silverstone, that would play a factor. Had the FIA not called, or actually called Lewis for cutting the corner on turn 1 in that race, Max probably would have ran away with that shit. But things happen, seasons change. And And then we have both Ferrari drivers calling some things going into the weekend. Leclerc says he's not expecting any miracle for the Ferrari team.
Already
So,
just accepting defeat.
Kind of. I have a sneaky feeling that their woes are going to be washed out. I think they're going to do well. I get the feeling. It just feels that way, that both Ferraris are going to have a pretty good weekend. And then Carlos said that he expects Alpine to join the fight for P2, which is weird. You don't really usually hear, outside of George, one team calling for another team's success. You know, George saying that Red Bull's going to win every race for the season, and then Carlos saying that Alpine's going to surpass them and join the fight for P2, which is great, man. If we can get a 3-way team fight for P2.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a stretch, though. Like,
yeah, but Alpine's been sneaky good. I think they're waiting on the doorstep.
Yeah, they've been consistently just getting better.
Yeah,
right? And so,
slowly but surely. Nothing a big jump the way that Mercedes and Aston Martin have had up and down.
Yeah,
but just like sneaky in the back door.
and that's kind of like it's kind of funny you say that because Ocon and Gasly are both like that's the type of driver they are. They're just consistently like not making much noise, just in there in the mix, and then something will happen that lets them jump to the front and take
opens the door.
Yeah, take opportunity.
Just not in Australia.
Yeah,
but also funny, you know. Sainz saying that, and then the Alpine team kind of being the catalyst for the red flag going into FP1. So hopefully that's not, an omen for the rest of their weekend. I would love to see that. Alpine's not like my favorite team. I feel like they don't really have any. I've met one Alpine fan in my life, and I was like, holy shit, are you the only one?
Are you French?
Yeah, he was. I was like, what the fuck? He worked at a museum.
Yeah. I think going back to the Ferraris, like, it is kind of sad to hear them both
accepting fate,
because it was Charles cleared up after Spain that, because in qualifying they had this mysterious issue that couldn't quite figure out. They didn't know if it was damage, the car, they didn't know really what was going on, and turns out like there wasn't actually any damage. It was just a setup issue with their car. So
were they running two different setups?
Yeah, like Charles had the newer upgrades.
Got you.
Yeah.
They're bringing, I think on both Ferraris, I was listening to the pre-race show, or maybe it was just some vamping during the red flag of the practice session, but both Ferraris are bringing new combustion engines. I want to say the two Red Bulls got new exhausts. The Williams got full power unit changes.
I know. I think Alonso did as well, like
did he?
And everything.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So a lot of movement going around for parts this weekend. Before we get into wrapping things up, they had mentioned on the broadcast team during FP1 that Mikka Häkkinen. Did you hear this?
Oh yeah.
Mikka Häkkinen predicts that McLaren is going to be the one to challenge Red Bull in the second half of the season. Maybe not for the championship, clearly, because they're so far out of it, but for race wins and podiums going down the rest of the season, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder where he's getting that from.
I don't know, but they started breaking it down, and it kind of does make sense. As far as like the complete setup of the car and the concept of the car, McLaren's is the closest to Red Bull's concept. Side pods, their aero and suspension design is the closest, but Red Bull has been able to dial it in. Mm-hmm. They've been able to hone it, whereas McLaren hasn't even touched getting anywhere close to, getting their setup right. But as far as the concept goes, those are the two closest cars in comparison to each other. But now that McLaren has, seen underneath Red Bull's shirt, maybe that floorboard aero design is exactly what was missing. They can tinker tool some things away, and we might see Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have a solid end of the season. If they can join the P2 fight, we have a four-way fight. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big maybe, though.
That's a huge maybe.
Yeah.
It's completely out of left field, too. I was listening to it going, what the fuck?
Yeah, and like it's one thing to have the exact car and the exact design and all that stuff, but you still have to have like the minds and the team to be able to set it up right each weekend.
Exactly.
And to get the most out of it. And so far, I haven't seen anything to convince me that McLaren's got their act together.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of issues in their practice sessions and qualifying, stuff not being set up right or just like small little technical issues. So, you know, when it gets down to it, like the Red Bull garage is the strongest. Like even if they didn't have like the best car, like all of their setups are always on point.
Yeah.
Their strategy is always on point. Their pit stops are always on point. So all those little things that go into like getting the extra percentage out of your car, Red Bull has a leg up on everybody. So
they have the perfect package. But it'll be interesting when McLaren brings their upgrade package, and if they can dial that in, it's a fun prediction. I like that one.
Okay, you want to do some bold predictions for Canada?
Yes, let's run this back. Okay, so you have. Go ahead and read yours.
So starting off, I got Aston Martin double podium.
So you're going for the Lawrence Stroll bet.
Lawrence Stroll bet. I think he's going to do some slimy stuff behind the scenes. he's
gonna leave some shells out on the track, some banana peels.
Yeah, he's going to disable CCTV cameras.
There you go.
And
he's got a legion of groundhogs that are going to make their way onto the track. They did earlier. Did you see that?
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, we come to expect from this track. But
I love how hokey F1 can be at times. Like you go to Australia and they've literally had dingoes on track. You go to Canada, they got groundhogs on track. You know, I forget where else there have been, you know, just like local
birds and stuff. Yeah.
Birds, but like local to the region that are like, you know, like if we were to go at Texas, if a bald eagle were to fly onto track, you know what I mean? It's almost
An
like
armadillo.
Yeah, it's almost like stupid, cartoonish at this point. But I love it. And then you have my favorite bold prediction. You have George making contact.
Yeah, just because he made those comments.
Yeah, just to make him eat his words. I love it. Do you think it's going to be lap 1 contact? Do you have any idea? And not that you have to make this part of your bold prediction, but do you have a feeling of when and who it's going to be with?
I'd say it's most likely early. It'll be him and. My first thought is to say Lewis, but I'm going to say Lance. Him and Lance are going to tangle.
That's going to put your Aston Martin double podium in a jeopardy, unless that Aston Martin body stays strong.
It's going to be George's front wing hitting back of Lance's tire.
Yeah.
And so bounces off of Lance.
Yeah, George is going to lose his front wing, and he's going to blame it on Lance.
Yeah, I mean, plus we just talked about that Aston Martin, how strong that thing is.
Yeah.
It's fine. So.
And then you've got your boy Oscar Piastri beating Lando Norris.
Yeah, I think he's just got the right attitude. And after the past few races, seeing Lando how down in the dumps he is, I don't really think he has the mojo to pull it out this weekend.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little earlier. I saw an interview with him, and he just could not have had any less optimism in his words towards the races coming up, towards the rest of the season, and towards the team altogether. He just seems so depleted. We've talked about it too much this season. It sucks.
He's that Mikka Hakkinen optimism.
He does.
Yeah.
He needs to sit down and have a talk with Mikka and let him rizz him. Rizz him? What do you call it?
Rizz him up.
He needs to be rizzed up.
Yeah.
By Mikka. I could see it happening. I hope it doesn't, because for Lando's own good, he needs to have a better season and finish things out strong for his own future, for his next contract outside of McLaren. He needs to consistently show up, have good, solid races. But I also think it kind of depends. Lando's so touch and go right now. Like, if he has good practices, he'll have a good quali. Like, if you look at Spain, he had a good practice. He had a good quali. Things obviously went completely south for him. His own fault, his own undoing. But if he has a good practice, has good qualities, then he has the forward momentum, the mentality of having a good race. And you can actually see him trying to throw it around the corner, sticking a nose up the inside, hopefully at the right time. But we'll see.
Yeah, it could literally come down to how this second practice goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all they're really going to get. Unless they're going to treat FP2 like FP1 and then FP3 like FP2. Who knows? We'll see. I'm excited to watch. What starts in 30 minutes here. We can catch that. I think, I was talking about, I feel like Ferrari's going to have a sneaky good race, despite what they have to say about themselves. That's when I feel like Ferrari does well. When their mentality is down in the dumps, they have a better race. When they think that they're going to come into the weekend like all-stars, they completely fuck it up. So I have a Ferrari finishing in the top 4.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, we're going to have, my other one is we're going to have a 3-team podium. So I think it's going to be a Red Bull and Aston Martin and a Mercedes probably on the podium. That's not my prediction, but a 3-team podium is my prediction. And then I think a Ferrari will finish 4th. But my prediction is Ferrari top 4 so they can finish anywhere there, and then any 3 teams on the podium. And then my last prediction is I think we're going to get 2 safety cars. I'm going to need a little help from one of your predictions. Hopefully George will cause a little bit of a safety car right there. And then maybe late in the race, especially if we have some rain, maybe we'll get like a Yuki Tsunoda, a Nick DeVries, maybe a Logan Sargent hitting the curb too hard in the wet and going off, and bada bing. I got a point.
I would love to see it.
It'd be nice. And we also have to wrap up our best races of the season. Let's take a look at those.
Yes.
So we finally updated this. We added Spain into the equation.
And Monaco.
I'm really happy with how we have this laid out. So we still have Australia first. We have Miami second, Jeddah third. As I was looking at this list, I was kind of questioning that because I loved Jeddah so much. But Miami we did really, really enjoy, despite the fact that so many people overseas want to shit on U.S. races and wanted to shit on the Miami Grand Prix for the antics, the pre-race announcements, the driver lineup announcements, Will.i.am's goofy jacket, all that shit.
They're just jealous.
We loved it. We had a good time. You get a little bit of culture at every single race that you go to. That was ours. That's Miami. If you don't like it, stay away from Miami. I don't know what to tell you. Then we have Bahrain, and then we have Azerbaijan. We slotted Spain in back there. Not the most exciting race. I felt like, all the better races of the season. Azerbaijan, we did have a little discussion about, and it took me watching the first 30 seconds of that race to go, oh, you know what? I really like this race. I really like that track. Spain's going to have to sit in 6th. And then rounding out the bottom two, we have Italy, the race that never happened, still being a more exciting race than Monaco, which is our least favorite race of the season.
We had fun just talking about it. So
yeah. I mean, that's all Monaco is you get to talk about it, you get to talk about what a driver's challenge is, and you do not enjoy the on-track racing. Either way, the best races of the season standing go as follows: Australia, Miami, Jeddah, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, Spain, Italy, and Monaco. Where do you think Canada is going to slot in here?
Well, if I get an Aston Martin double podium, I'm going to say number 1. But chances are probably going to be in the 3 or 4 range, I think.
That's what I was thinking. I would think it's going to end up either 1 above or 1 below Jeddah.
Easy.
Or it could be, it could be a complete stinker. But the fact that we might have rain, the fact that it's a quick track, the fact that there's so many different upgrades and teams vying for position, teams actually in the hunt, it feels like, for podium positions, especially with, the possible emergence of Alpine. I think this one could be a top race of the season. Will it beat out Miami or Australia? I don't know. Remains to be seen. I'm excited for it. Can't wait. This has been Into the Chicane, the pre-Canadian Grand Prix edition. We will see you guys earlier next week, post-race. Peace.